Okay, we can get started. Welcome to the October 16th, 2023 meeting of the Town of Niskayuna Planning Board and Zoning Commission. Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme is excused and absent. Mr. Scrubby-Tennis.
Here.
Mr. Khan.
Here.
Mr. McPartland.
Here.
Mr. Darpino.
Here.
Ms. Gold.
Present.
Ms. Strang.
Here.
Mr. Drescher.
Here.
Chairman Walsh.
Here, thank you. Okay, first up, we have the approval of the minutes, and those minutes are actually from the October 2nd, 2023 meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. McPartland for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
And second by Mr. Diarpino. Any comments or changes to the minutes of October 2nd? I have none. No? Okay, hearing no comments or changes to the minutes. All those in favor of approval of the minutes from October 2nd, 2023 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none opposed, the minutes are approved. We have no public hearings tonight, so we'll move the privilege of the floor. Anyone wishing to be heard regarding any planning and zoning matters in the town of Niskayuna, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. So this is privilege of the floor. Obviously, I see nobody here. So Laura, do we have anybody online that we're wishing to speak tonight?
I don't have anyone online and didn't receive any written comments.
Okay, no one online and no communications received by the planning department. So I will close privilege of the floor. Thank you, everyone. Have no unfinished business, and we'll move to new business. Under new business, we have a few resolutions tonight. First resolution being Resolution 2023-21, a resolution for site plan approval for a tenant change to a Milan Hair Removal Treatment Center at 400 Balltown Road. All the resolutions are posted on the town website, but I'll just summarize the end of the resolution. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds the above reference site plan meets the requirements of the zoning code and previous site plan approvals, and therefore hereby approves the site plan with the following conditions. 1, signage. Prior to issuance of a building permit, the planning office will review and approve any proposed code compliant signage, and that's for Milan Hair Removal Treatment Center. Let's see, there's no project lead on that, so I'll make a motion that we approve that resolution. Do I have a second?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Mr. Scrubby-Tennis. Any discussion at all? I know that you talked to Clark talked to them, and they're going to make sure their sign is compliant. If it isn't compliant, it'll come back to the planning board and look at potential waivers, but it's compliant. This is pretty much it for this project, and this is in the old batteries. Was it batteries are?
Batteries and bulbs.
Battery and bulbs over on Mohawk Commons is the
Next to
location of
Blaze.
this.
Yep.
Any comments, concerns? No? Okay, Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Scrubby-Tennis.
Aye.
Mr. Khan.
Aye.
Mr. McPartland.
Aye.
Mr. Darpino.
Aye.
Ms. Gold.
Aye.
Ms. Strang.
Aye.
Chairman Walsh.
Aye. Resolution's approved. And I know they couldn't make it tonight, but we wish them the best of luck in taking over that storefront and with their business. Resolution number 2 tonight is Resolution 2023-22, a resolution for site plan approval for a tenant change to the Heritage Group Insurance Company at 2331 Troy Schenectady Road. And for that resolution, we got, let's see, now therefore be it hereby resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds the above referenced site plan meets the requirements of the zoning code and previous site plan approvals, and therefore hereby approves the site plan with the following conditions. 1, signage. Prior to issuance of a building permit, the planning office will review and approve any proposed code compliance signage similar to the last resolution. And that's Mr. Diarpino. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion for approval by Mr. Diarpino. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Gold. And discussion. Anything, Dave?
No, nothing came up from the last meeting.
No, looks straightforward. I think they were unclear what they were going to do with signage, so we have the condition, and if it's code compliant, then we're all set there also. So again, another reuse of, I believe it's empty now, the structure, so that's all good news for filling up these buildings.
We didn't have one.
We got one? Okay. All right, so let's see, did we call the roll on that?
I know.
No.
I just wanted to mention that Leslie wanted to make sure that we correctly cited it as a use variance, which we did the research and it was a use variance. And the applicant reached out and asked what the deal was with the basement, which is why all that extra research was done in there. But the parking checked out, the research checked out, and it was correctly cited as use variance.
Great, and I appreciate all the research the planning office did to find all that old information. It was very useful. Thank you. All right, Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Scrivby Tennis,
Aye.
Mr. Khan,
Aye.
Mr. McPartlin,
Aye.
Mr. D'Arpino,
Aye.
Ms. Gold,
Aye.
Ms. Strang,
Aye.
Chairman Walsh.
Aye. The resolution is approved. Again, welcome to the Heritage Group to 2331 Troy Schenectady Road. Final resolution tonight's resolution 2023-23, a resolution for site plan approval for a tenant change to Albright's Meat and Company at 2321 Knott Street East. Again, similar resolution as the last couple. Now therefore be it hereby resolved, the Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds the above referenced site plan meets the requirements of zoning code and previous site plan approvals, and therefore hereby approves the site plan with the following conditions. 1, signage. Prior to issuance of a building permit, the planning office will review and approve any proposed code compliant signage. Ms. Gold, I have a motion.
I so move.
A motion by Ms. Gold for approval of the resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second by Mr. Khan. Everything, Ms. Gold?
The only question anybody's raised with me is whether they're going to get a liquor license or not.
Yep.
That was not in the application. When I tried calling, I got a full voicemail box.
Yeah, but obviously that's controlled through the state, so
Yeah,
I'm sure the town would.
just curiosity
Yeah.
about that.
I mean, it's a sandwich, and they were going to specialize in to-go is what they were hoping to do, so
They had some tables, so.
they had some tables, so I guess it's a potential, but not aware at this time of that. Okay, any other comments?
What location is it located?
This is in the old CBD store located next to ShopRite in the ShopRite Plaza.
I didn't even know there was a CB.
Yes, near near Mathnasium.
Oh, yeah.
So he knows what
That was
Math
your
Place is.
Mathnasium, I knew, yeah.
I think it's a very appropriate use of property.
And again, an empty storefront being put to use, and it's kind of a unique opportunity too here with a sandwich shop, so. All right, any other questions, comments? Mr. Henry, please call the roll.
Mr. Scrivby Tennis,
Aye.
Mr. Khan,
Aye.
Mr. McPartlin,
Aye.
Mr. D'Arpino,
Aye.
Ms. Gold,
Aye.
Ms. Strang,
Aye.
Chairman Walsh.
Aye, the resolution's approved. And again, congratulations to Albright Meat and Company. It sounds like it's something different. It'll be a sandwich shop specializing in to-go or eat in. And again, it'll fill a vacant storefront in ShopRite Plaza, which is all good news, just like the other couple of resolutions. All right, so that's it for new business tonight. We got some discussion items tonight. First up being 2890 River Road, a sketch plan application for a 4-lot subdivision. I know we have the applicant here, and I'll turn it over to Mr. McPartlin and Mr. Khan. Take it from here.
Evening.
Good evening.
So I,
Just pull that down, would you please?
a few things to just briefly recap, and then I was hoping, Mr. DeSalt, you wouldn't mind just giving us a little overview of your stormwater report. But since our last meeting, we did have another site visit with the applicant as well as several departments within the town, planning office, the town engineer, superintendent of highway, water, and Ray Smith, and some interested neighbors. So we got a chance to walk the Seneca Road boundary of the site and through the site into River Road Park and take actually a big loop through the primary watershed area that kind of collects and feeds off of Iroquois Middle School back down into the Seneca Manor neighborhood. So it was a very, I think, productive site visit. We focused a lot of our time just kind of discussing where we're at and what our goals are with the TDE also present, Prime Engineering. And we got to get a little more information from Ray Smith and Matt Yetto about some of the existing stormwater infrastructure with a particular focus on the area at the low point in Seneca, where there does seem to be some ponding during major storm events. There are two culverts, a 30-inch and a 36-inch, that really are the primary ways to convey water onto the site here and into that roughly 2-acre wetland. It still would appear, based on my understanding of and reading of the stormwater report and what we've discussed so far, that once the stormwater makes its way onto this parcel at 2890, it's being managed, and there aren't really any capacity constraints, as far as I can tell, in acting as sort of a thoroughfare for stormwater onto the culvert at the northern, sort of northeastern end of the property, which passes under River Road and eventually makes its way to Mohawk River. But since then, we've also received a big deliverable from the applicant. So why don't you, unless Cengiz, you'd like to.
No, perfect. You got to the point where I wanted to get to. Thanks for the summary. We're looking to, I didn't get to complete the entire report, was looking at it. So if you can.
And
pick up
I'm
from
going
there.
to let Mike speak, but I just want to mention, unfortunately, something came up last minute. Ryan's not able to attend tonight, but he did close on that strip. So you just want to let you know that it should be, it's closed. You should see the recording now, if not soon. So.
And just please introduce yourself for the record too, okay?
Michael Roman.
Thank you.
Mike Dussault with Engineering Ventures. So when we looked at the drainage report, we broke it into two items, on-site drainage and off-site drainage. And for on-site drainage, it was the driveway culverts for the 4 lots. We would introduce new culverts where drainage ditches are crossed along River Road, or there's an existing drainage path on Mr. Lucy's property off of Seneca. And we determined that for the 25-year storm, a 12-inch culvert was adequate for conveying the 25-year storm for each one of those driveway crossings. For off-site drainage, we looked at the crossing at Seneca Road for the 30 and the 36-inch culverts, and we looked at the River Road culvert crossing, which is a 42-inch culvert. At Seneca Road, the watershed that comes to the inlet of those pipes is about 145 acres, which consists of the watershed of Iroquois Middle School and then some neighborhoods to the west. For the 25-year storm, we determined that the flow is 291 CFS or cubic feet per second. That's the 25-year flow to that point. That generally agrees with the Iroquois SWIP that we were able to get access to. So once we knew that, we studied the culverts for 2 different conditions, and one's an unimproved downstream channel, and one is an improved downstream channel. So for the unimproved downstream channel, we determined that the combined capacity of the 2 pipes is about 75 CFS. That leaves 216 CFS to flow over the road at a depth of 18 inches during the 25-year storm. So then we studied, like I said, the improved channel. And when we looked at that, we looked at an 8-foot wide channel from the outlet of the Seneca Road culverts to the inlet of the River Road culvert. And then having a consistent, uniform 1% grade between the two culverts. When we ran the analysis of the culverts, we determined that there's a slight improvement of 4 CFS in capacity. So we went from 75 CFS to 79 CFS for the pipes, which still leaves about 212 CFS to flow over the road at still a net depth of 18 inches. It was a very, very minor decrease of about 1/1000th or 1/100th of a foot from the 2 models. But again, there was a little bit of increase in the capacity of the pipes of 4 CFS. So this leads us to believe that the culverts under Seneca Road are not adequately sized to convey the 25-year storm from the upstream watershed. So we moved on to River Road, and when we looked at River Road, we assumed that the conditions at Seneca Road were fixed or didn't exist. So we looked at the 5-year storm, with the subdivision regulations saying that we can't negatively impact a downstream culvert for the 5-year storm. So we looked at that culvert, or the drainage area to that, the 42-inch culvert, and it's about 158 acres in total, which includes all the watersheds we described before, Mr. Lucy's property, and then part of River Road Park. So we looked at existing conditions as it is today, and then we looked at proposed conditions, which adds in the 4 houses, their impervious surfaces, driveways, lawn areas, conversion from woods to lawn, those type of things. So pre-development flow was about 165.86 CFS for pre-development. Post-development, with the addition of the 4 homes, it went to 165.89. So the very small, almost rounding error kind of increase. So when we looked at the culvert at River Road, we used the 165.86 CFS. And I will mention that I did find an error. We did make a correction in our model, which doesn't change our recommendations at all or conclusions, but I will distribute that to the town tomorrow, the new revision date for tomorrow. So we looked at that culvert. We determined that the 5-year, it has a capacity of 116 CFS, and that leaves over 50 CFS, which flows over the corner of River Road and Seneca Road at a low spot, where right at that corner is kind of a low spot of 288.5, and the water does rise up to about 287. So there's about an 8-inch overflow of the road at that point. This leads us to believe that it's potentially that the culverts under River Road the culvert is also undersized. But we believe that the impact from the development is no impact or insignificant impact.
So just adding on to that, I think one of my other takeaways from our site visit when we were discussing the 2 culverts under Seneca, and prior to having your drainage study, which confirms what I think most people's suspicion was, that it's just not an adequately sized culvert or culverts. It would seem as though you would need to put several culverts larger than the ones already there to actually convey all of the water in a 25-year event under the road. Is that,
Yeah, I would agree with that.
is that an accurate
Yeah,
statement?
we didn't study what would have to be placed there, but there's, multiple solutions that could happen. But yeah, they don't have the capacity to pass the storm, and that's what we believe. It's backing up onto the neighbor's property and flowing over the road. And I think the images that they show for that 2.1-inch storm, which is about equivalent to the 1-year storm, was, I don't know, it was tough to see with the drawing or the photo, but it was a couple inches deep. And we were saying that 25-year storm, that should be like 18 inches deep, which I think is believable. So I think if the culverts, if they were accurately sized, they would allow that to pass and not have to flow over the road. But it might be a combination solution. I mean, we didn't go beyond the analysis, but
Yeah, we did discuss the potential of enlarging the collection areas on either side of Seneca, or making some kind of improvements on either side of the road near that collection point. But suffice it to say, it's a very large watershed, and it really does seem to mostly funnel into this one stream, waterway, that happens to pass right along and through one of Mr. Lucy's neighbors' side yards there, Tiberios.
Yeah, I mean, so just following on, thank you for doing the calculations. We had discussed what your preliminary numbers were there. And of course, the TD is going to review the updated one tomorrow. But, for myself, for planning board, right, the special situation here, to use the most objective term as possible, is that there's a pre-existing lack of proper drainage in the vicinity of this property that does affect the wetlands, the conveyance of the wetlands in this property. Based on the size of this watershed and based on the 4 houses it's going to go on, that project alone, yeah, it's only a very small incremental decimal point % change to the pre-existing condition. However, we've got this underlying condition. And so I think for us as a board, given the directions from the code, the question really, and gets into the legal question that Elena's not here for, the question really now is, what exactly is our scope, right? Because in one interpretation of the code, we have a responsibility with a known water issue to get that issue resolved. But it seems highly unlikely that this specific development is exacerbating that problem that's already there, which is a bad problem.
Well, I think Elena would need time to answer that question anyway, but I'll make sure that that question gets to her. But for the record, I just wanted to state that the drainage study came in too late to put in the packet. So I believe possibly Jengus and Patrick and maybe Chairman Walsh were copied on it, but the rest of the board don't have a
That's right.
copy of the study yet.
And in any case, it's new today anyway, too, right?
And it's
So-
new today, but
yeah.
like when it comes in that late, like Clark and I can't even read it and summarize it for the agenda statement. So just so you guys know, not everyone that's sitting here has had a chance to see it or read it. It wasn't sent to the board yet.
That being said, not to interrupt, the hope would be that over the course of the next 3 weeks until we meet again,
We'll have.
we're actually having comments from the TDE.
Yeah, so that was the
Yes.
second point I was going to make.
Oh.
The TDE did come, and I'm very excited to get him on board, but we aren't able to hire him until a developer pays escrow yet. They were sent the quotes, but we don't have a check. So we can't authorize him to go forward yet until he actually has the funds. So we're waiting on them for that. So he may not be able to look at it tomorrow, but the wheels are in motion. We need the escrow to get the DD actually started, and then, we'll get the updated study and we can send it to the whole board. It's just very new data right now.
Yeah. I mean, pending that scope question answer from, the answer to the scope question from Elena, or the town attorney. I mean, we could walk through 2 different scenarios here, right? And do an options, right? In one case, responsibility is put on the town or to quote unquote fix the underlying problem. The other case, the responsibility gets put on the developer, right? I don't think today, sitting here in this meeting, that it's productive to go through any options analysis on those. I think we'd like some more clarity,
Mhm.
right, on the scope of the code. But again, right, the code does, instruct us to look at this issue with the water situation.
Yeah, and I said this at the site meeting, is that, the planning board in the early 2000s approved Seneca with this underlying drainage condition. The homes got built and now the homes are having a flooding issue and, it's a town, or they come to the town and the town investigates the problem. And so I think that, kind of regardless of the scenario, the board needs to understand that if these 4 homes are allowed and, conditions are what they are these 4 homeowners in 10 or 15 years going to be coming to the town and saying like, why did you let us build here? So I guess I just wrote down those numbers because I myself haven't had a chance to read the drainage study yet, but I guess I have a larger question because I don't, I'm not a drainage expert. If we know that those culverts are undersized in both places and we potentially, like regardless of whose responsibility it is, prior to these homes being built, made the culverts better, like so that they could convey the water, would that negatively impact these 4 homes? Like for instance, like right now, those culverts in that road may be kind of damming the water up so that it's not coming to this property as fast. And if we were to say, okay, we're gonna make sure that those culverts now convey the 240 CFS, would that negatively impact these 4 homes? Do you know? Is that something that you can understand from your modeling? I don't know.
Well, Laura, I'm afraid, and Jengus is sort of hitting on this to to address what you're kind of poking at, these are questions that need to be answered. I believe
Yeah.
it's within the scope of our subdivision review. But I'm concerned we get to a point where we're trying to engineer things, put the cart a little before the horse. And thus far, my impression of the applicant and this application in general is that they have demonstrated a willingness to find engineering solutions within reason, because this is a minor subdivision, 4 homes of which the applicant will reside in one and the applicant's architect's relative will reside in the other. I feel as though they have really demonstrated a commitment to addressing the concerns that have been raised by CAC and this board regarding the drainage. Just to kind of further underscore where I'm going with this, I feel as though when you raise questions about what future homeowners might come back with if we cause unintended consequences on the upland areas of this parcel, I take some comfort in knowing that based on the objectives stated by the developer here, we're going to be dealing with the largest landowner being the applicant here, who's held to the conditions that this board places on any of the final subdivision approvals. And furthermore, we have an architect as a part of this development team who's resident in town, and I think has just nothing but the best interest of the town in mind as well. So we couldn't, in my mind, we couldn't really be dealing with a better set of circumstances to try and address any of those future unknowns.
Yeah, and I feel like you have mentioned that multiple times, Patrick, and I'm really glad you point that out. But just to push back on you a little bit, I do think that it's important for the board to look forward and make sure that these lots are appropriate, because we're looking at 4 lots. And is that the right number for this land? That's what we're trying to figure out with sketch plan. And I do think that that it's meaningful to know whether or not ahead of time that that's the right configuration. Look, to me, if we've identified the fact that not enough water is moving under the road and should be getting to this parcel.
How does the elimination of one home help us there?
Well, but that's what I'm saying, like,
The applicant has demonstrated that whether it's 4 homes or 3, it's a negligible impact. It's a drop in the bucket.
yeah, but and we can talk about it,
They're
I think,
code
maybe when
compliant.
Elena's
No,
there, or we can have like a side meeting. But but the planning board is understanding the developability of a lot holistically. And if the underlying condition is that the water isn't being conveyed properly through that lot, if it was to be conveyed properly through that lot, would it allow for the 4-lot subdivision? That's what my question is.
And I'm
Well,
going to.
we've got a 25 acre, just to kind of follow up on that, we've got a 25-foot buffer identified. We have no setback issues for the 3 homes proposed in the area off of River Road. Personally, I don't understand the concern with density here. I think it's in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, and based on the zoning, these are all code compliant homes. They're smaller than some of the mansions that you see being developed on Seneca, which, for what it's worth, are causing more issues being developed outside of the control and oversight of the board, really, just through the building permit process.
You're actually getting to my concern. My understanding is that both the town and the state require that this project not make matters worse. But there's also the legal issue that we cannot require the applicant or the developer to make improvements to other properties to alleviate the problem.
We can set limits of clearing though, and we can right some of the wrongs that occurred in the lack of planning previously.
Well, but I'm saying there are legal limits on that, and we would need our attorney for that. But we can't require him to go on somebody else's property and make improvements.
I agree,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm getting to the point where I feel as though we are putting an undue hardship on the applicant to fund a TDE when that's not our practice for a minor subdivision. They've already
Yes,
gone
it
above and
is.
beyond.
No,
No.
it is definitely our practice
yeah.
for subdivision.
Yeah, we've done that.
Yeah. This
Just
is
some
not out
recent
of the
minor
ordinary.
subdivisions with,
Those are
Seraphine,
recent.
yeah,
I've been
yeah.
party to ones where there was no TDE required.
Yeah.
So we put that responsibility on this applicant, but we didn't
Yeah.
do that on Empire Drive. And
We
and
did
this
do it on
applicant-
Empire
we
Drive.
did.
Empire Drive had a TDE.
Of course they had a TDE, but they didn't have to fund an escrow and submit a
Yes,
full,
they did.
a full
Yeah.
SWIP.
Yeah.
before
Absolutely, they
sketch plan.
did. They
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
did.
That's
Yes,
the
it's the exact
practice.
same process.
Yeah, so,
No, they did, Patrick. I
It feels
promise
as
you.
though we are much further down the engineering this project than we've been in prior minor.
If I can just
But
chime
we
in.
need to know if it's viable or
I could
not.
be wrong.
So-
Yeah, that's the same process for Empire.
yeah,
and
no,
Wilson.
I think I'm consistent with the process.
Just kind of devil's advocate to Laura's point, like what happens down the road with these lots? Let's just say hypothetically, we're here today and there is no water issue. The pipes are sized correctly. We're not talking about this in the depth that we are at today. If the issue, whether this moves forward or not, is because it still's got to be corrected regardless if this project moves forward. But if we're here today and there is no water issue and there's proper pipes underneath Seneca to move it, this is a very different conversation. And that's just how I'm trying to separate some of this stuff. We'll take care of the escrow. We'll get that squared away. I was a little confused because the guy was already on site at the walkthrough. So I just didn't understand. It came through us late. Money's not an issue. We'll get that moving forward. Like I said, Ryan's living there. My sister's living there. We want to make this right. I've done my due diligence. I'm very comfortable with what we're doing here. We are not looking to sell these 4 lots to an individual. So, but I appreciate everyone's comments. But again, I think we need to look at it as if this is correct today, there's no water issue. I think this is a very different conversation.
No, definitely. I mean, I hope, Ms. Roman, we've said it before, great. I feel myself, Patrick, we've got a lot of clarity here. I feel the entire board, once, they read the report, as Laura has and others, right? I think we'll get to that point of clarity. And the responsibilities of you as the developer versus responsibility of someone else, town, whoever else it might be, right? We're clear on that. I do think, and because it's a calculation, I think the question that Laura asked has some merit, both for you as the developer and owner of the land, and even for us. And if it's at the level of a calculation, and Patrick, I mean, this is consistent with the last
so
several of
which
these.
question? Just
So the
clarify.
question being, if water was being conveyed properly from across Seneca into the wetland area, right? Does that affect the extent of the wetland spatially, aerially? Does it raise the water table, et cetera,
Does it function?
right? I think that's the key question I think Laura was
Yeah,
getting
the-
after.
Any thought on that now, or is it too soon?
Well, the analysis that we performed on the 42-inch culvert under River Road was assuming that there's free drainage through the entire watershed to that point. So that's ignoring any kind of issue at Seneca or in the wetland. So I believe there's a little bit of a rise, as somebody mentioned at the walkthrough, a little bit of a rise. The survey does show that. That's why we looked at having an improved channel, but only had a slight increase to the capacity of the upstream pipes. So I think we wrote in the report that, that the replacement or adequately sizing the culverts under Seneca should be done in conjunction with improving the downstream channel to allow the drainage to continue through that culvert crossing at Seneca.
Does everything flow okay through the existing wetlands? Is the topography okay? Is the elevations okay to make sure the water goes where it needs to go out to River Road?
Well, it does make it there, yes. It may slow down as it goes through the wetland because of the vegetation. The improved channel would help streamline that to the culvert crossing under River Road. But all the proposed houses are uphill in the upland area with the 25-foot buffer. So I don't, even if there's I think Matt was saying that they've only witnessed the culvert crossing at River Road only half full during some kind of storm event. I wasn't sure if he talked about the 2.5 or 2.1 inch rain event that he has in the
Mhm.
report last time, but I do think that it's hard to model things through a wetland. It's not as easy as designing or siting a culvert or doing drainage analysis on the watershed areas.
So you mentioned earlier, I can't remember if it was a 25-year storm or 5-year, when the water, does it make its way through the culvert adequately in all the scenarios under River Road? Or was there a point, or was there one spot that you said that it would sheet across the road?
So the subdivision regulations require the applicant to prove that you're not creating overwhelming a downstream culvert for the 5-year storm. The culverts, based on our model, the drainage area coming to that and then having the culvert model, we show that it's already insufficient.
Hmm.
With it overtopping River Road at the corner of Seneca and River Road. It's a low spot in that corner where it would overtop the road about 8 inches and flow across the street. And that's, again, it's assuming that there's the problems in Seneca are fixed or non-existent.
So how many CFS is that?
For the 5-year storm, 165.9 CFS.
So that's doubling the flow across Seneca.
Mm.
Right now, you said it's 76.
Well,
CFS.
so the subdivision regulations require you to, we're not proposing any new culverts except for driveway culverts. Under the code, we weren't really required to study the Seneca crossing because we're not proposing that culvert. They exist today. So that, my understanding, the culvert, the subdivision regulations, any proposed culvert that you have in your project, you have to design for the 25-year storm. That's what we designed for the driveway culverts to make sure they can handle the 25-year storm. Those are proposed. And I wrote in the report that we weren't really required to look at the Seneca road covers. We looked at them because you asked us to. And when we look downstream at the 40, we're required to look at the 42-inch culvert at River Road because we can't overwhelm that for the 5-year storm. It's already overwhelmed based on the calculations that we prepared.
Do you have evidence in the field? Have you seen that culvert become overwhelmed? This is the first I'm hearing that culvert gets overwhelmed.
I have no knowledge of it. And I think Matt was mentioning he's only seen it ever half full, but I think, again, water's being held up at Seneca. If that's fixed, it might could possibly push the problem downstream.
So just kind of, so I can just a little bit more understand how you calculate, I guess, how you get to 100 and you said it's 160 CFS at the invert under river.
Yes.
But my impression of what this wetland does is it slows down discharge to a much smaller rate. Are actual field conditions even close to 160 CFS?
I mean, we develop models on engineering science, so I haven't witnessed it.
Yeah, your 160 CFS, it's modeled off of a wetland being present,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah,
Right, so
we
he's modeling the wetland.
we do treat it as a saturated soil, type C, so any water that hits that wetland is shed.
Well, you have 240 CFS coming in and 169 going out. So obviously the wetland is,
No,
Retaining.
they're confusing the storm events. So the
oh,
upstream,
you're confusing this. Oh,
so the upstream at
Is
Seneca, we
25.
studied for the 25-year storm, because if any proposed culvert, we use the 25-year storm because if you were putting a brand new culvert in, the town requires, subdivision code requires you to size it for a 25-year.
oh, okay.
That's why we
So if
said-
you were looking at the River Road one for the 25-year store, it might have even more than 240.
Oh, yes,
Oh, yeah, it'll be.
yes, absolutely.
Laura, can I just ask, how long has that culvert been in existence and how did that get developed? So,
Poorly.
thank you.
Goes back many decades at this point.
But did we just have such an environmental change that
Well,
this
no, I
occurred?
mean,
or-
this is kind of what I'm telling you guys. So Seneca was a wet area that they squeezed the houses in, and the planning board, looked at the studies and said, okay, it can fit 7 lots. And by the way,
The town engineer.
one of the lots is going to be very difficult to develop. And that was the very last lot that was developed, and it was the Tiberial's home. And then as conditions change and storms worsen, like you're seeing more and more concern incrementally. And so I think that's why we just really need to understand, because I'd say, in 2004 or whenever the extension to Seneca Road happened, it probably made sense to the planning board. The applicant was there saying, we've done the studies and this is how the water's going to move and this is how we're going to put the homes in. And to Patrick's point, I said this for Amador subdivision, and just so you guys know, I struggle with this with Amador subdivision. Those lots were very tight, right? We said you're going to put the split rail fence on the wetland buffer to make sure that we're protecting the wetlands in the Amador homes. What that does is that shortens the backyards, and we struggle regularly with people who are trying to treat their backyard the way that a normal backyard would be treated. They take the split rail fence down. We have to go out and we notice and order them. They don't understand why their backyards are so short. They don't understand why their backyards have these funny, little lines. And once those homes are built, they have the right as single family property owners to put the pools in. They have the right to put the accessory structures in. So unless, you do a stormwater report and it says no accessory structures allowed or something like that, every homeowner that buys one of the lots that's done through subdivision is allowed to do those things. So I think it's really important to consider, okay, we did, Conservation Advisory Council said we did wanted to see kind of the true footprint of the home, which Michael was nice enough to put the single family home footprints on 2 of the lots. I mean, we do have a general sense of how big the homes would be, but I mean, they do change, and you do have to understand and expect that once people live in them, you will see those lots fill up with playgrounds and homes and things like that, so.
Yep. Just one comment, though. You talk about Seneca and past planning board approvals. You also got to remember the process was the same. It's just it may not have been a town designated engineer that looked at it. With the engineering review probably occurred in-house at that point in time.
Yep.
There's always an engineering review and an engineering sign-off.
Yeah, it's hard to know, Nancy. I mean, it went through approvals and it was
And don't
built
get
as
me wrong, I'm not
designed.
looking to point a finger. I just didn't know if it was an environmental change with changing of drainage or what have you, or if it was just a poorly designed culvert. So I just,
I mean, that's my neighborhood. I don't recall seeing any water sheeting across River Road, I'll be honest with you.
No, I don't think it cheats across.
Doesn't
Yeah,
Sure.
no, I'm saying that in, Irene or whatever storm event, I don't recall seeing any, just,
And I had it, I was driving it daily for like a year.
Again,
It cheats
that's
across
just,
Seneca.
that's assuming that the issue at Seneca doesn't exist, it was corrected.
Yeah, so right now Seneca might be holding that back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yep.
Which is the question you've asked, right? If Seneca is no longer holding it back.
But just once again, that area, that 2.1 acres
Wetland.
it's all, it appears to be pretty level, and it acts as a containment area. So your calculation takes into effect generally the grade, existing grade, and how that would sort of fill up and absorb into that entire 2 acres of wetland.
We didn't study it to that depth. We were looking at the flow to the 42-inch culvert and then with the capacity that culvert is to pass that
On
storm.
and you said it was on a 1% grade, is that what you said?
Yeah, when we did this, we looked at the improved condition downstream of the existing Seneca Road culverts.
So there's a steady 1% decline from Seneca to River along which
Yeah.
anything that comes over Seneca
Yeah, does not exist today,
travels
but
through
that
the
was,
site.
we studied that as an improved condition of the downstream.
But in reality, it would appear it kind of meanders a little more, and
Correct.
perhaps it's not 1%.
No, it's,
And perhaps
there might be a section of it where it's flat.
if you get a big event, the water kind of disperses and
Yeah.
absorbs, and then some of it makes its way all the way to the other end of the parcel and discharges.
Correct.
But it's not a clean
Right.
stream flow, 1% steady.
Not today.
Not today. But based on the calculations, we're still, that 165 number is still a challenging number.
Well, 500 is a challenging number, and that's what Iroquois is saying they're putting off in
Yeah,
a,
Iroquois' report for the 100-year storm was 500 CFS to the corner of
It's
the.
100 years.
yeah.
I mean, that's an,
Big numbers.
yeah, and that's another thing. I mean, I'm not, I raised it once during the site walk, right? And I'm not, holding us back to the Paulsonelli, right? I know we're talking at the culvert, what if you did 25 for the 42-inch pipe, you did 5, right?
Correct.
Fine. We still have to deal with, what does it look like for what we had asked Paulsonelli to do? All these numbers are just going to get worse, right? And also the fact that we're looking at the 95th percentile, not the 50th percentile of these specific year events, right? So, but I don't think there's any more calculations that the applicant needs to do here. The current numbers are actually showing the
Well-
problem pretty clear.
Just to be fair, Jangus, you're invoking Polsinelli. We did not hold Polsinelli to the same standard. Polsinelli had downstream issues.
Agreed, but that's why we had
The only
them,
standard we held
Yeah.
Polsinelli to was that you cannot make the situation worse.
right.
We did not ask them to improve it or deal with any upstream issues.
So as of today, right, we haven't put any burden on this applicant.
But they're willing,
Beyond-
and this is just my point here.
Yeah.
They're willing to take on that burden. I feel as though that what they've demonstrated so far, and we won't really know until a concrete plan for improvement to the town infrastructure is identified, what that entails, the
Mhm.
cost, and what the applicant bears, what we can legally or
Yep.
reasonably ask the applicant to bear. But I think at every step of the way thus far, the applicant has not shied away or pushed back on our request to
No, we-
investigate this issue.
We agree there, but we can't assume that pending the questions you just, answering the question you just asked, we can't assume that we can put that burden on the applicant, right? So this is really an hour thing.
So, and I just want to state this as clearly as I can. The way I look at this is we have an application for subdivision, which gives us an opportunity to make this situation better. Were this applicant to walk away from the table, there is no leverage from the town. There is no ability for the town to make improvements to the situation for anyone upstream or downstream. You would just have a individual homeowner who says, I want to demo this dilapidated building, build a nice home for myself, and you can't ask me to do a thing.
Mhm.
So let's not take that too much for granted here, and let's recognize that this applicant, just an individual who bought a abandoned home and wants to sell a few parcels, is willing to take all of this on. And for what it's worth, to the extent that this board thinks that they can make the calculus decision on what the right number of homes is, if we limit the number of parcels being created through the subdivision, we're also limiting the amount of resources the applicant has
Yeah.
to devote to solutions.
But that's
So-
what we do with Paulsonelli. We severely
Well,
limited the
Polsinelli, in
number
my
of
opinion,
lots.
is not a fair comparison here.
Well, he came in with 2 lots, so that was his doing. We didn't
Well,
give him direction
But he had come in with more lots before, and we said no.
that many years
Right,
ago.
but I can only speak for myself and, right, maybe, Patrick, we haven't,
If the question
We
is.
haven't
if the
gone in a
question is
direction
it should be
about-
3 instead of 4, I would say 4 gives the applicant more wiggle room financially. If the question is it's not appropriate to have any additional homes on River Road, then I would say, let's talk about curb cuts and let's talk about character of the neighborhood and density. We're not talking about that. We're talking about dealing with this elephant in the room, which is there's a massive watershed, 146 acres, some of which comes off the town land, some comes off state land. And this parcel has borne a large part of the brunt of this collection of water flow. And we've got an opportunity to make some improvements if we can work with the applicant, get an easement, maybe get a maintenance agreement in place with the town to go in there and look at this wetland, because the applicant can't do it. And certainly a individual homeowner is not going to go through the process of getting some kind of Army Corps permit to make improvements to a wetland just out of the goodness of their heart.
Okay, well, my view is that it's a work in progress. So I said last meeting, right? I mean, I'm not trying to be funny. I mean, the board hasn't seen the SWIP
I
yet,
think we got to move this forward.
right? We
I
gotta move
really
forward.
think we got to
Exactly.
get some TDE comments, and I
Exactly.
want to call for a tentative sketch plan resolution, because I can't see how much more we can get out of them before we actually do real engineering.
Yeah, well,
So Patrick, I spoke to Elena before the meeting and she again said that we could not call for a public hearing without verification that there was site control.
Right.
Right.
And we don't have that verification yet, and she's not here to give me any other direction.
Yeah,
And
no,
that
I
was the
mean,
direction she gave me.
We won't have TDE comments until November.
well, yeah,
Between now and then, hopefully we can get proof that the deed's transferred. And then we're calling for a tentative, I don't know, do we have 2 meetings in November? We're talking about a
You
month.
have
yeah,
to.
I mean,
You have to.
obviously, I think just the best thing to do is, since everybody hasn't seen it, you have a revision already coming out. Let's get it to the TDE, get the preliminary comments. Next meeting, we can entertain a motion for sketch plan approval at the following meeting. I think
Yeah,
it's kind of preliminary tonight.
It's my understanding that there were some vagrants residing in the vacant home on River. Is that correct? I thought the applicant represented as much to us. We
No.
found evidence that there were some people residing in that home illegally.
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
I mean, I drive by
Is there a
in the morning
demolition
and at night,
permit
so.
been submitted yet?
So they can't
Hold
take the single family home down if there's a subdivision application, because seeker doesn't allow for you to disturb the site until you have the seeker completed. And it's part of the subdivision application is removing the home.
Any update on the land transfer or closure of the strip of land?
Yeah,
It's complete.
he says.
Oh, it's complete?
Yeah, just
Yep,
has to send
it
the
was closed
verification
last
to the
week.
town.
Okay,
Should be documented in the record.
okay.
Mhm.
We'll have that for next meeting too.
Yeah, and I think it's hard when this information comes in so late in the game.
Yeah.
So I think if we get the time to get the TDE on board and get some of that together, and then the whole board can look at the study, it
Yep.
would be very helpful for the next
And
meeting.
make
And you've heard the
informed
concerns
decision.
tonight too, so, I mean, it helps. Just the conversation helps. Thank you, Mr. McPartlin and Mr. Khan. All right.
Thank
Do you think is there anything else? I mean, we just need some more information and we keep moving it forward, and we'll have it on the agenda, I'm sure, at the next meeting. That's all we can do at this point in time, unless I'm missing something.
Work in progress is a good summary.
Okay. Okay, anything else you guys have? No, thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right, thank you. Okay, One Research Circle, that's GE Global Research, and we have a team here, and,
Chairman Walsh,
Yes,
I
sir.
will recuse myself from this topic.
all right, Mr. Khan's going to recuse on this project, and Mr. Drescher will be taking his seat. He just physically will be over there, but he'll be acting in that capacity of the planning board. Thank you, Mr. Khan.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name's Charles Dumas. I'm an attorney. I'm with the law firm of Lemery Chrysler, local law firm. I'm the applicant for my client, General Electric, for a subdivision of the Global Research Center on One Research Circle, River Road. It's a 533-acre site, and we're looking for a 2-lot subdivision. I have some other introductions to make this evening. I have with me Karen Simons of GE. She is the managing attorney for real estate at the company. I have my law partner, Bob Littman. Bob and I work on land use matters, usually at the back end, and he's interested in seeing the sausage making process at the front end. So welcome, Bob. And Peter Lilholt of CT Mail, CT Mail Associates. Peter is the director of civil engineering and land use at CT Mail. They're the company that did the surveying and sketch plan, and will do the subdivision site plan. Peter can receive your comments, answer technical questions, and go through the short form environmental assessment form if you wish to go through that this evening. The purpose of the 2-lot subdivision is to assist GE in their corporate restructure. You've probably read about it in media. GE is siloing its fundamental elements of its company into three different components. GE Healthcare received some of the assets of the company and was spun off earlier this year. And the remainder of the company is going to be restructured into 2 different silos. One is GE Verona, which will be the energy division, and GE Aviation will be GE Aerospace. And that will occur in the fourth quarter this year. So the timing of our application is important to GE and to that process. The proposed division of the property would result in the creation, and it's tough to see here from this map, but it would result in the creation of about a 194-acre parcel that has 2 structures on it. One is the GE Learning Center, and the other is an office building. It has a separate entry to the facility from Balltown Road. And the idea is to create a subdivision line that is about 5 feet off of the existing bike path or walking trail that goes through the property. Thank you, Laura. So it would generally run along like so. The bike path, the trail would remain on the GE property. It would be undisturbed and be completely intact. The subdivision would result really in no disturbance whatsoever to the site. There would not be any change in its use or occupancy. There would not be any need for the provision of additional water supply or sanitary sewer supply. There would be no disturbance to the drainage patterns. It would simply be the creation of a subdivision line. The remainder of the campus, approximately 338 acres, would remain in ownership by the GE company, General Electric Company. And we're also looking to establish a couple of retained easements for GE to traverse into the Global Research Center. The purpose of that would be for ingress and egress, so as to eliminate the need to leave the campus, go out on River Road, and go up to Balltown Road to access the Learning Center. There's no plans to construct that driveway at this point, but it would be a future item that would fall within the corridors that will be depicted on the more mature plan. I think the agenda notes this evening set forth a timeframe within which we're hoping the planning board will be able to act. By November 1st, we expect to have a fully mature subdivision plan submitted. That would be, oh, thank you, Laura. That would be available for the CAC on the November 8 meeting. And hopefully at that time, there would be a recommendation for a negative declaration issued back to the planning board. We expect to be back here on the 13th for purposes of receiving hopefully a negative declaration, a resolution approving the sketch plan, and scheduling a public hearing for later in the month of November.
Yep. Yeah, in my understanding is that the minor subdivision, the line of the subdivision basically follows the existing bike path and so on and so forth.
Yeah, the thinking right now and what we've drawn by way of a more mature subdivision plan would have the line approximately 5 feet west of the bike path. So the entire bike path would remain on GE property in the main campus.
Is there any plans for any infrastructure change, any fencing at this point in time, or just a paper easement, no driveway at this time to connecting the parcels, proposed parcels?
No, not at all. It would just be reserved easements for later ingress and egress if it was deemed desirable by the decision makers at the site.
Who cares? Because I would assume that if in the future, if this minor subdivision is approved in the future, if there was any change to the property in the way of a driveway or road connecting or any fencing or something that I would assume would come in front of the planning board, or we could condition, because then you may have impacts on stormwater or the environment or whatever. So at that point in time, we would look at it then if that were to occur, I would believe, right, Laura?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not an unreasonable request.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Again, there's no change. This is a minor subdivision. It's basically redrawing the lines and filing it as such, right?
Correct.
All right. All right, is there any questions right now for the applicant?
So just as clarity, the purpose is really for asset segregation. You're just dividing up the parcels so the proper corporations or assets fall within the right structures. Is that,
Yes.
Is that simple?
Yeah, as a result of the corporate restructure, there's a variety of assets going in one direction
Right.
and the other. This 194 acres just happens to be Niskayuna assets that are going over to GE Vernova.
Okay, thank you.
And there's no connection now. In order to go to the training center, you have to leave the property and drive around between the two sites, right?
Yeah, that's a little cumbersome.
Okay. All right.
Is there another phase plan to this, or is this it?
No, this is it. There's nothing contemplated by way of disturbance or construction.
Okay, and I'm not sure this is accurate, but I've heard over the years that the site has its own fire service.
Capital has its own fire service.
Capital, okay.
Fire
So
department.
this isn't affected at all?
No.
That's
There's
good.
no change in use proposed, no change in occupancy proposed. It'd be business as usual, just on two separate parcels of land.
I had heard that this was serviced, but that goes back to when they were both being run by the same, before Capel was under a different management. So I think at one time it did serve both.
Well, Capel was, government owned all that property even back, historically. So even when GE ran a contract, there was two separate sites. It always was,
No, I don't think it was when I was a kid.
Okay.
Regardless, it doesn't matter at this point.
Doesn't
It's not
matter.
affected.
All right. All right, so my view is it's straightforward. I know that Conservation Advisory Council already had some preliminary look at this, right, Laura? And they're going to make, had deeper discussions and more information at their next meeting, and they'll make a recommendation on seeker to us in time for our next meeting, is my understanding, right, Laura?
Yep, and the tree council just had that minor comment that was
Right.
in the agenda statement as well.
Right, and there's no infrastructure changes at this point in time, so, obviously, you'd like to have a project lead. You don't have to say tonight that, but you can email me or the planning office. But my view is that we just keep it moving forward since we're on a tight schedule. And so the next meeting, we'll call for a tentative resolution for sketch plan approval, seeker, assuming that we get the input from the Conservation Advisory Council, and call for the public hearing all at that time. I don't see any reason why we can't do that.
There's two things that I would ask the planning board this evening. If you would determine yourselves to be the lead agency for secret purposes, I would think that appropriate. And also, if you could determine that this is a minor subdivision as opposed to a major subdivision.
Okay? Well,
That's, provisions of the code.
I don't think we typically do that, but I don't see any issue why not. It is a minor subdivision.
So we actually determine the minor, because you've submitted the sketch plan, we actually determine the minor subdivision in the resolution where we call for the public hearing
hearing.
and seeker determination. But in the planning board is the lead agency. I mean, they can take a
Yep.
vote to determine themselves but they're the highest authority on this review, so they would be.
Yep, there's no town
Fair
board action. There's no on this, so we are the lead agency.
Fair enough?
Right?
It's sounding fairly straightforward.
Yep. And again,
I'm glad you see it that way.
Yeah, well, we'll get some information from the Conservation Advisory Council. Obviously, it'd be more complicated if you're coming in with the road in place, some fencing, and, all the questions about, where the road's going to be located, is the best spot, what's the impact on any drainage, or et cetera, et cetera. And since that's not the situation here, so.
That would be down the road, so to speak.
Yep, down the
No
road.
pun intended.
Yeah, so I think we're in pretty good shape to be able to move this along.
Fair
I have a
enough.
couple questions.
Sure.
Do you foresee the need in the near term to further subdivide either of these parcels that would be created through this action?
No.
The smaller parcel, the one that will belong to the energy company,
GE Vernova, yes.
Vernova,
Yes.
I noticed that it would appear they will not have any, that parcel will not have any frontage on the river. Is that correct?
That is correct.
The current operations or use of that site does not necessitate waterfront access?
No.
Good questions.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'll be a little bit more formal. So all those in favor of having a resolution for sketch plan approval, making our secret determination and calling for a public hearing at the next meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to that? Okay. All right, so tentative resolution for next meeting, assuming that we'll get the input from the Conservation Advisory Council.
Thank you.
Okay.
Question?
Anything else?
Okay.
Anybody? No? Okay, thank you
Super.
for
Thank
coming
you for your
tonight.
time.
Thank you for
Yep.
your patience tonight.
Well, this was easier than stormwater drainage.
Oh. Yeah, you're not going there, yeah. Okay. All right, so next up, we have 797 Westmoreland Drive. And this is an application for a lot line adjustment.
And I'm recusing, going by the state standard of avoiding even the appearance of impropriety, because I know the person who will benefit from this
Okay, and again,
will work together.
Mr. Drescher will take your seat for discussions on this item, 797 Westmoreland Drive, all right? And we don't have the applicant, are you representing the applicant? Oh, you're Metro Ford, that's right.
No.
I'm sorry. No, Mr. Is
Mr.
Metro
Roman,
Ford.
yeah.
Yep, Mr. Roman. So we have nobody from Westmoreland online or anything, Laura, tonight? No.
Not tonight.
So I took a look at your agenda statement, Clark's agenda statement. Thank you very much. And so I agree with your comment. So it basically, sounds like there's a fence. So one neighbor wants to help out the other neighbor by giving part of the property, so the fence doesn't have to be relocated, which is nice. And your recommendation that the lot line adjustment continue so that we don't create a irregular shaped lot is a good comment. Has that been fed back to the applicant yet, or is that not to talk about it tonight?
I haven't talked to them. I don't think Clark has either. That was something that we noticed when we were putting the agenda statement together. The interesting thing about it is that they do actually have a map with the proposed lot line going completely straight, and they changed it.
Really?
So I do have to find out why.
This is not the most current map.
This is the most current, but their original one had the proposed lot line going all the way down. And actually, this is just a random thing, but you can tell because at the bottom, do you see how the total width of the lot is 130? And then here you have that 128.71. That was because originally the proposed lot line came all the way to the bottom, which was changing the frontage to 128.71. So zoning code wise, they're both fine. They don't need to go to the zoning board for any reason. But I mean, it's a 1.83 jog out, probably 30 feet back on 35 feet maybe back on the property. And then it goes, along the fence line.
Yep.
But like we've said before, sometimes when you have a funny change right in the middle of the line there, it can be hard for future property owners because
Yeah,
now you have a 1.83 change halfway or a quarter of the way down the line.
exactly.
So Lord, do you have a pen? Because I'm just not tracking it.
Sure.
It looks, okay, you just walk me through this.
Yeah, so the original lot line is the dark one.
Okay,
The one that
Mhm.
is
Over
kind
there.
of broken, that's highlighted in green is the proposed.
okay.
But if you notice,
Go.
right here,
Yeah.
it comes back. So there's
Oh.
only a change
I see.
in the rear of the lot, which is probably where the fence is.
Right.
So the neighbor put her fence on the proposed dwelling's house and
Got it.
then planted trees. And so they are both agreeing to change the lot line, but it comes back. So right here, it's coming back, and then there's no change in the lot line as it comes down to this property line here.
Jogs back. I see.
But like what Clark and I are saying is that you really should just pull this 1.83 change
Right.
all the way down to the bottom,
That's-
because otherwise this little corner thing can be weird.
Yep, no, agree. Is there, there's no detail here, so is there a reason why they did that? Is there like some shrubbery or something in the front yard that they don't want to extend that line straight?
Yeah, we'll have to ask them that.
Yeah, I have to ask. Yeah, but even with this change, both lots exceed the R1 requirements. So
Yeah, they're both fine.
And there's no accessory structures to worry about, any area variances that may be created as a result of the adjustment?
Yeah, it doesn't impact any accessory
Okay.
structures, thankfully.
Can you go to the top of the map?
Yeah.
So moving the line, doesn't that now skew the gridded pattern of the rear line?
It does. It will.
Don't we not encourage that?
Hmm.
I mean, the comprehensive plan wants regularly shaped lots. I don't know that the rear yards of lots always line up perpendicular and parallel to each other because it depends on how the roads were built.
Okay.
So I think they often don't.
They don't,
It's unusual actually that
Mhm.
this one does.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was, I guess, the fundamental question. I guess the second question is that technically this is a civil matter, correct, between two neighbors?
I mean, if they weren't able to do the proposed lot line adjustment, it would be civil between the two neighbors.
Right. And this wouldn't be a problem until transfer of property in the future when somebody then maybe gets a survey and then says, hey, this is on my property? Is that?
Yeah,
Is that what
I
this
mean,
is looking to avoid?
technically, right now, the new owner could say, okay, I'll sell you this. We could do a proposed lot line adjustment, or no, you got to move your fence and I'm going to take down all those trees.
Is that the premise, or do we know the impetus for this coming before us?
Yeah, they're both happy to work with each other, but the lot on the right, the J&N Endemic Enterprises, was a vacant lot for a really long time. It's just been a forest. All the other homes were built around it, and the lands of Bastien Dubois they put their fence up and planted trees that are very special to them across their property line. So when the new home came in and did their survey to put it's labeled as proposed dwelling, there's actually a house that's being built there right now. If you go, it's not forced anymore. It's a home that's under construction. And yeah, they just asked if they'd be willing to give them the 1.83 so they could keep their existing yard and existing plans.
Great. All right, so you'll get back to the applicant and ask if there's a reason why the line doesn't extend, if there's a, get something, what the reason is. And comp plan basically says we want regular shaped lots. And so this is like going the wrong direction. Really, that's pretty much it, right? I mean, anybody else have any other concerns? There's no variances required. I mean, and everybody's on board with it. It'd be nice.
Yeah, so there's no kind of an easement option here for one property to the next?
You can do easements. That is something that's allowable. It's not something that they propose.
Is that something they know exists as an option? Like, can you tell them that?
So you can. The attorney, though, often counsels me not to, give legal advice and just act on the proposal that's come before me.
Okay.
But if there was some reason that the proposed lot line adjustment, like to your point, wasn't meeting the comprehensive plan, then we could have them explore other options.
Yeah, well, maybe you can recommend they watch tonight's recording of the meeting.
Uh-oh.
What
That's not my
what'd you say,
computer,
Mr.
that's that
Khan?
computer.
Meeting's over.
I think
Clerk's actually still here, it's okay.
I think if you've got a current development and that owner is open to adjusting that lot line and it makes a contiguous line straight, then I think that's probably the best long-term solution.
Yep.
As opposed to getting that house built. It looks like there was an oversight on not having the original lot survey before the fence.
Yeah.
It's probably
yeah.
what happened. And if that lot was undeveloped for a long time, just people get comfortable around where they build things, they hug that line and go right over it. You see it's relatively usable as long as they make it continue.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure you all can hear the feedback that we're getting, and I'm not sure why. But what we could do is see if we could get them to do the straight lot line, and if they can, we could bring that back as a full project. Otherwise, we'll bring them back for a chat with you guys. Do more recommendations.
So another way to say it is if they're willing to extend the line and make it a regular shaped lot, do we want to call for a tentative resolution? I mean, I don't see any reason why they're willing to do that and they can get the map updated. Why not, right? They save some time for everybody. So Laura, you or Clark will feed that back. Right?
So there's currently a building permit application set in for the new house, correct?
Correct. Yep.
It may be worthwhile for the building department just to check those plans to see what's coming in off Westmoreland, to see if there's anything that's on that left side of the property that may affect that lot line adjustment. Just a quick check.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, you did? Okay,
Yes,
all right.
yep.
So that's been.
Yeah,
awesome.
we did check that.
Yeah, I was just asking whether it's like a tree or something special, the reason they jogged that we can't
I think
see.
it's landscaping. Yeah, but the new home, this is actually the footprint of the new home, and they don't have any proposed accessory structures.
Do you know if that feedback's
So I
impacting the
just I
recording?
listened to it. You can still hear us talking, but you can hear it on the recording.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You want to leave the meeting and start it again?
Well, it's broadcasting fine if you guys can live with it. It's all still
We're okay
working.
living. I'm okay living.
Yep. Okay, so we'll move forward with that. Tentative resolution 797 Westmoreland. Somebody would like to be project lead, make the recommendation at the next meeting. Again, email me or the planning office, same with the One Research Circle. And that brings us to 3631 State Street, Metro Ford, an application for site plan approval of exterior facade renovations, including new signage. And representing the applicant is Mr. Roman. Yeah.
The only thing, Michael, is I can't put your signs on the screen, but the board has.
We
them.
have. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I can verbally discuss everything. It's kind of straightforward. Do you want me to kind of just quick synopsis or?
Yes, please, just.
All right, so basically, Metro Ford is no longer moving forward with Quick Lane. They have been awarded their commercial Ford division. So the building will be turned into a small little renovation, mostly pertaining to the front portion, which is office, and the exterior facade, which will be now their commercial pro division, and where all work and renovation or service will take place. So everything that was submitted to you was approved by corporate. It's what we'll be moving forward as the local architect. The exterior facade is, a little bit of a overhaul, but not huge. Having a little bit more with glass and transparency. Talked with Clark, and I think he gave you the recap as far as the signage requirements are and the difference of the square foot of signage back and forth. And the existing pylon that is there now will essentially be reskinned to apply the Ford commercial logo and emblem versus the quick one. So the size of that pylon and the infrastructure will remain as we currently have it, and we'll just be putting a new Lexan onto that base.
Okay, I've got that chart that I believe Clark probably put together that
Yeah.
basically says there'll be some waivers required for this to go forward as proposed. 3 additional facade signs and a waiver of 34 square feet for sign 1, the elite commercial service, because it exceeds the 50 square feet. I do note that the planning office didn't have a problem with the waivers and recommends that we move forward. I know we can't pull it up, but everybody has it in their packet, hopefully in front of them. But it looked to me that the changes look like improvements to me. I mean, it looked better
Yeah, I
looking
think
than
again, we're getting
than
a
what's
little more with
existing.
glazing.
Is
and, I think a simpler facade in some ways.
yeah, if you take a look at, I guess it'd be page 82 or so of the packet, kind of shows what it would look like. And if you scroll a little bit, a few pages later, I believe page 85 shows what it looks like now. It sure seems like it's a facade improvement to me. I mean,
Yeah.
Do we know of any impacts because of the business change? Because it sounds like they're going to be working on maybe larger trucks. Is there any concerns there from a site plan that?
Nope, we reviewed all of that as far as the access to the building, and internally, everything's been laid out. And I've had the review with corporate, so there's nothing changing from their end.
All right. I mean, we know it's a pretty busy site. There's a lot of sea of cars there, because that's what they do. I'm not saying anything wrong with that. It sits far enough off the road, right?
Yep, it's off the road. No site changes up along state.
Yeah, so what size trucks are gonna get serviced there?
So like the transit vans that you see, they're 350s, they're 450s or 550s. They're actually doing some of that renovation or that service work now in
Okay,
there. It's just that they dropped the quick lane. which
okay,
was
so
just-
these vans are like the UPS and the Amazon type vans or something bigger, like with a bed?
Around
or-
that, yeah. The transit, they're roughly around that, yeah.
Okay, but not trucks with a bed on them or?
Not
tra-
18-wheelers
okay.
or box trucks.
Okay. Is that a potential thing for the future or is,
I don't know, because I think technically Ford just sells like the 550 chassis and stuff, so I
Right.
don't really specifically know. But I know that a part of them getting this approval to have this corporate is that they get more of the transits and more of those. That's kind of like their sweet spot, so. But I did not specifically ask them beyond that.
okay,
As you stated, they're already working on those vehicles.
They're doing service work there now, yeah.
And the quick lane was just oil and lube service
Yeah.
for resident, or for regular cars?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
With
we
the
had
majority
approved that one.
service being next
We
door.
did, right?
Yeah.
yeah, we had approved that. Yeah, I mean, my only question was just in case the sizes of these trucks get bigger than what they're currently planning today, but
Yeah, I guess it would be more of an on-site issue, for storage of
Yeah,
vehicles.
and we're also limited to what the existing doors are, because all that area in the back is not being worked on, pretty much existing.
right,
We're really just renovating that front office to their standards for this new branding. So whatever they've been doing as far as the lifts and the coordination of the interior work, it's going to remain.
So the garage doors are staying the same.
Yeah, we're not changing any of
I
that.
guess that would be important, because if they were
So
getting
to your
bigger, then
point,
you could
yeah.
say,
yeah.
it's not meeting the needs
Yeah,
as
right.
built.
Yeah, right.
Sign waivers.
So my personal view is I don't have any concerns with the project, but again, if we could get a project lead on this one also, we can make the recommendation. Is there anything that we're lacking, Laura or Clark, for this application?
So, I'm not actually sure if Clark can, no, he can. He made the table and, they're taking the signage off of one full side of the building. So in one sense, they're coming more into compliance. But on the front, it's actually quite a bit more signage, than pre-existed. We are more lenient on State Street because, some of these things are a little farther back from the road and it's just generally a kind of signy, colorful corridor. But I mean, it is quite a bit more. So, I mean, take a look and see what you think. The monument sign's completely fine. It's like for like. So it really comes down to page
50, or 6, I can't see anymore.
page
82.
82. Thank you, Kevin. To just take a look, the elite commercial service words are quite a bit bigger. And then the circle of the Ford Pro. I like the blue on the building. I think
Yep.
it looks really nice.
Yeah, like I said, it looks like an improvement actually over, what's there now at the,
I don't know, because I guess I just never look that way when I'm driving. If those words are bigger than kind of signs on surrounding buildings or not, those are pretty big words. But like, do you know, Michael, is that about the standard for the buildings around there?
That's typically what you're seeing with these newer dealerships now. Yeah.
It's not what's typically there now.
I don't know what's there. I think there's always a want to make things larger and whatnot, but it's kind of the corporate standard. So what you would see here is something that would be comparable in some other areas. It's not something specific to this site.
It's simplifying. I actually think it's less busy.
It is.
I like that.
yeah, me too.
The original pylon sign was double the height, so already had that conversation with them, understanding that, we're not going to ask to increase what's there now.
And it helps direct, I mean, it's on the same site as consumer automobile sales, right?
Yep.
So from a wayfinding perspective, being able to see from the road, okay, I'm just another, driver for XYZ commercial operation. And I've been tasked with delivering this truck for service today. I need to get my Ford Transit van to that building.
Yep.
And over the years, we've cut dealerships some slack because, gee, it isn't highway commercial, unlike being like in residential or neighborhood commercial. It's straight out commercial.
Yeah. Yeah, and off the road also, and it's also a busy site with lots of vehicles and everything. It isn't,
Yeah, there's a lot happening.
so. All right, do we need any input from the Conservation Advisory Council, Laura, on this one too, or?
No, it's tenant change doesn't get referred to the CAC unless there's major site changes.
All right. Does anybody have any concerns about the waivers? I'm hearing positive things here. Should we call for a tentative resolution also on this one for next meeting?
Will there be any impact? Are the residences behind is it Taurus Road? Is the cross street there? Will there be any detrimental impact to the residents behind there? Any
No,
increase
that's
in use?
changing. So
Nothing that's
really,
changing, or
we're-
there's no increase of use, just, okay.
Right.
We've had some,
Okay, that's a good
Challenges
question.
not over there.
How about lighting? Is there any description on the signage on whether is it internally lit or externally lit?
They're internally lit. The signage is
So the
internally lit
elite
LED.
commercial service is internally lit.
Yeah, I'll verify with their signage company, but
Yeah, that's one of the things that we usually, if there is any concern, it's the type of lighting and, whether, it's so intense that it may, impact the corridor. I'm not saying it does, but that's probably the biggest question we probably would have, right?
What's across the street? Is that Prima Pizzeria or McDonald's?
yeah, it's like McDonald's and Mobile,
Dunkin' Donuts?
Dunkin' Donuts.
Some of which are 24-hour operations. I know
Yeah,
from personal experience, that Sunoco, I've stopped there pretty
with the
late.
lighting. Yep.
McDonald's, I'm guilty of grabbing a late night.
Is there any change in hours proposed?
Sorry.
Any change in hours proposed?
I think that the hours for this location will be the same as what you see at the service area for the, at the new showroom dealership. So I think, to be honest with you, it's pretty much the same because they're doing repair work there now.
Well, I'd like to know specifically
Yeah.
whether they're the same.
I can verify.
Because the noise does affect the neighbors behind.
Yeah,
That's a good question, Ms. Gold.
yep, I can ask.
Yeah, if you're doing some heavy duty truck work at, 2 AM because they're 24-hour, that could make a difference. So in lighting of the signage and the hours of the operation of
Yep.
current, or, is it different than the current?
Okay, so
Okay.
just to be clear, signs 2, 3, and 4 with the given areas, they're all compliant, right? The waiver is just for actually having those extra signs on the front facade, right? Laura?
So
Clark? Was that there?
signs. Well, 2, 3, and 4 are less than the 50 square feet,
Mhm.
but you're only allowed 150-foot square.
Right,
sign.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it just depends on how you want to look at that. But if they were their own sign freestanding, they would be in compliance.
And I've got one other question. Do you really need elite on the elite commercial services?
That's what corporate requires, yeah.
Could they live without it?
It's probably
It
part of
does
the brand.
Add to
Yeah,
the
that's part
of it,
verbiage.
yeah.
I'm sorry, but we're already talking a bunch of waivers for the signage that could reduce that.
If all the other ones are
Or
called
maybe
elite,
commercial.
then I'm okay with it. If,
This is a standard package that is put out there. So none of this was specific towards this site. This is working with corporate in Texas. All this information was given to me with their guidelines, and there's more information that was provided. But
But we're not Texas. It doesn't make it better.
it's not just in Texas. This is just where their headquarters are, and that's my contact. And essentially, these are all their brand standards. No
Mhm.
different than like a Dunkin' Donuts.
Abbreviate commercial,
So
standard abbreviation for that.
I think it's fine.
I
I think it
think,
looks fine.
It's huge.
well, again, based on location, I don't have a problem with it. And I think we need to, as I've said in the past, support local businesses. And if we can do that without impacting the neighbors, I'm good with that.
I'm
Alright.
trying to bring it up. The only other thing we check with tenant change occasionally is like condition of sidewalk. And like, I know if there's kind of junk behind the building or something on Union Street and in other places, we've had them clean it up because it's been our chance to kind of make it nice. I haven't had a chance to look at the site for that, but
Sidewalk's actually in good shape there.
is it in good shape? Awesome.
And where
Yeah.
the required green space, we can look for it to be maintained.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any way to add a street tree there or not. I'm not sure.
I don't think you'd want a street tree there, just because of, that's
Yeah.
a very tight corner.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm not there frequently, but there enough that's to get in and out of that lot, any type of restriction of sight line on that corner
And
coming
you've got
either
It's hard,
direction.
it's hard to pull out
I'm
of there.
sure there's a
Yep.
bus service that's there too, so.
Yep. Are we still comfortable with a tentative resolution for next meeting? We get a project lead and we get the information regarding lighting and hours. And is everybody okay with that? Get a project lead, and if there's a concern that arises, will be a tentative resolution. We'll pull it if we have any concerns that come up, okay?
Did you have anything, Clark? No? Okay.
That sound good?
sounds good.
All right. We'll do that. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's it for discussion items tonight. Anything under reports? So Laura or Clark, if we can hear you.
Clark's there. Did you have anything, Clark? He's all set.
He's all set. Okay, and then a question for the board. Does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to discuss?
If you need a project lead for Westmoreland Drive, I'd be happy.
Yep, DRPino. Thank you, Dave.
Just one quick question. Laura, what's going on with the Miller properties on Old Town Road? There's a lot of work going on there.
So they are just demolishing those homes. As far as the town is concerned, that project was given a no. It's in litigation, but they're allowed to pull the demolition permits for the home because it's not currently under any pending town action.
They have not submitted a new application.
They have not submitted any new application. There's nothing planning wise that's pending. Obviously, they did not take care of the buildings during the time that they were working with the town and they fell into disrepair. And they'd be tough to save at this point.
It seems like they've been taking their time with it. When were they given the go-ahead?
They actually still haven't even submitted a building permit. So I have my building inspectors out there patrolling regularly because some of the boarding gets removed every other day. So every time we see a board removed, the building inspector gives them a call. But one of the reasons that it's taken so long is they had to do asbestos. The buildings were old enough that the asbestos had to be actually remediated and removed. We actually don't issue a building permit until the asbestos is gone from the building because we require the certificate from the structure that the asbestos, that it's safe to be removed, or you have to treat the whole site like it's contaminated. So the asbestos survey took a while. That's actually why most of the windows and things were gone, is because they did the asbestos remediation. And then the other complicating thing from that is that the town requires the utilities to be removed to the main. So you can't keep the lateral, they don't allow the stubs from the lateral. And the mains were on the other side of Balltown Road. So they had to work with DOT to get them, yeah, so that took a while. My understanding though is that all of that's done, the gas is cut. We need the letter from National Grid that says all electricity is removed, utilities have to be abandoned, asbestos has to be gone. I think they're at the point now that they can actually apply for the permit and get it issued. And I'm hopeful that that's done very, very soon because you can see they're still actually working, like they're bringing the piles to fill. So the reason that there's, dirt on the side is because they're gonna, once the foundations are pulled, that's what they'll use to backfill the foundation holes and things like that. They're prepping, they still don't have the final okay.
They don't have the waste manifests from the asbestos then, correct?
I mean, they know what they have to submit for their building permit.
Mhm.
And we're on them every day. We required the vacant registration and we're on them every day to make sure that they keep the home secure. But they haven't submitted any of that to us yet. So we're waiting for their submittal at this point. I know why some of the submittal took so long, but now I'm ready for.
So the building permit is for the demolition is what?
Is the
yeah,
demolition,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, so I'm hopeful that we get that paperwork, any day. And then once those homes go down and it's backfilled, it'll look much better.
And it seems to me they don't have approval to actually build anything.
They have no approval to build anything. The thing that is odd about that parcel, if we're going back and you guys remember, is that they did a subdivision abandonment without consulting the town of Niskayuna. So they had 5 single-family homes on one parcel illegally. So it was actually non-conforming. But I mean, you guys already know how I feel about losing single-family homes in the town of Niskayuna. I don't like it, and I don't like the way that it happened either. But that is the way that it happened.
So they merged parcels? How did they abandon the subdivision?
Yeah, they did it at the county level, and the county didn't consult the town to see if there would be a nonconformity or an illegality. That word.
Maybe
They
we
came.
should be asking the town board to take a little home roofing on that.
Yeah, so that the subdivision lines were removed over and above our head, creating 5 single-family homes on a single lot, which is problematic.
So bottom line, by doing the demolition, it comes into compliance because it's all one lot with no homes on it.
With the subdivision abandonment, correct, it does.
In the town center overlay.
But it's in the town center overlay, yeah.
What is the zoning there?
R2. It's the only,
And they want to take an R3.
yeah, if you go way back to when they did their original proposal, CVS is zone CN and WRGB is zone CN, but that chunk of land, which was owned by Mr. Tentor, remained R2 when they did the town center overlay district. Partly, I think, because there were single-family homes on it already.
And because they have single-family homes.
Yep. Thanks, Laura.
Mm-hmm.
Good
It's a
question.
good question. I get questions about it fairly regularly.
Okay.
We really didn't want traffic jams from commercial use.
Any other questions for the planning department? Comments at all? No? Okay, motion to adjourn?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Scrivener Tennis made motion to adjourn, seconded by Ms. Gold. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.